Hey guys, I'm here in European Village at Ash and Ale Lounge, which is a nice little cozy cigar lounge where I'm going to be interviewing Mike Norris, who's running for mayor of Palm Coast. So let's get this interview going, and huge thanks to Mackenzie at Ash and Ale Lounge for allowing us her space. But I'm here today with Mike Norris. Mike, we were talking a little bit about your military service before we actually made it official, jumping on this conversation. I love that you served. So thank you for your service, first off.
Thank you, sir.
And you said you served 24 years, 17 days, 2 hours.
No.
Okay, well,
24 years, 2 months, 17 days.
Okay, see. And then 2 hours, 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yep.
But you had a good time in the military, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like society's changed a little bit in that people, here, this is my thing. So I feel like people could do like better with the young people going into the military and having a little bit more responsibility, that sort of thing. I feel like it wouldn't be a bad thing for that to be kind of encouraged at times, but just my opinion.
Dino, your newest?
I thought he had a comment as it relates to that.
Well, I think that the military is having serious issues right now as far as recruiting across the board.
That's surprising.
I went over to Iraq in 2012.
Yeah.
And because my last assignment was at the Jacksonville Recruiting Battalion up in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And I was the administrative officer. So I handled all the human resources and all the HR requirements for civilians and military personnel.
Yeah.
And they call it Jacksonville Recruiting Battalion the Hammer of the South. That's their logo, the Hammer of the South.
Right.
And I came back, so I did 9 months of it, and I came back, and my assistant admin, he was retiring. Mr. Santos, he was retiring. So he invited me up for his retirement ceremony, and I walked in and I saw the Sergeant Major. Hey, Sergeant Major, how's it going? He said, Mike, we didn't make mission. What?
The recruitment.
Yeah, he said, they didn't make their annual mission. And I'm like, what? He said, we didn't make mission. What are you talking about? He's like, we couldn't get the bodies in. So that was 2012. So. Yeah. And it's gone downhill from there, you know. Yeah. And it could be a lot of it may be economic factors. People, there's more opportunities. Unemployment is low, and some people just aren't willing because they don't know the future, you know. And you know, for me, and so this is you can see that from 12. Go back to 8, 9 when I was teaching at Georgia Tech.
Sure.
I didn't have any problems recruiting. Like I told you earlier, I doubled the student population at Kennesaw State University.
And when was that again?
That was 2008.
Oh, yeah.
2008, 2009.
Sure.
I doubled the student population because I was offering those scholarships.
Yeah.
And, you know, kids were desperate to get, just to get a job. So I didn't have any problem recruiting. I didn't have to actively, we did shows and stuff, at the universities and high schools and stuff. But they would come knocking on the door. Yeah. It was like, that's good. Okay, these are the options I can give you. Yeah. If we can get you, if we can get you physically fit and your medical's all straight, and just say Georgia Tech, for example. I had to go out. They went with the thing of presenting the big giant checks, like lottery winners. And I went out to Douglasville to present this kid with a check.
Sign-on bonus or something?
Well, it's just a check saying this is how much the Army's going to pay for your scholarship.
Oh, nice.
And most engineering student at Georgia Tech at the time, it was around $112,000 for a 5-year engineering student.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on the stage at the high school at the, scholarship ceremony, and okay, Captain Norris is here to present so-and-so with the, scholarship. And I turned the check around, and the whole audience was like, because it had $112,000 on there.
Oh, wow.
So, and a kid saw that, I'm like, wait, hold on. They're going to pay that much for me to go to school? I think I can do that.
Yeah, that's good PR.
Yeah, but they have to be committed to it. My son is a recent graduate of the Embry-Riddle Navy ROTC.
Okay, yeah.
And he majored in aerospace engineering. He got the Navy ROTC scholarship. He got a scholarship from the university, $65,000.
Yeah.
Plus we were lucky and blessed. We planned ahead. So we had the Florida prepay.
Yeah.
So this kid got like $7,000 a semester in his pocket for going to school.
That's not bad.
Yeah, he didn't have to work. He didn't have to, no struggles. He got a couple of he did one internship, but he wasn't struggling to pay for education, and because sometimes the ROTC demands too much of the students.
Sure.
And I told my last colonel before I left Georgia Tech, I'm like, sir, they can't commission if they don't graduate.
Sure.
So if you're pulling them away from their studies for too long, they're not going to be able to graduate. And if they don't graduate, you've wasted all that time and energy and money. So, but it's a good. It helps you. It develops your leadership skills.
Yeah.
From the time you enter the military. You're learning and growing. You learn how to deal with people in situations, especially stressful situations. So I encourage it. My youngest son, I don't think he'll ever enter. But they're just two different personalities.
Yeah.
Christian was gung-ho, through and through Army brat. He grew up. His first 5-6 years was on a military installation.
Yeah.
And these kids on military installations, when they're playing retreat at night to take down the flag, the kids stop what they're doing,
They know.
face the flag, put their hand over their heart, and once the music starts playing, they go about their business.
Yeah.
So it's they understand service to their country.
Yeah. That's incredible. One of the things that you were saying there was that it's hard now with the numbers, essentially. But I also see that with laborers. It's hard for people to get workers and stuff in general. And I didn't even think about how that might be affecting the military, though.
Same thing.
Huh. I wonder where these kids are going, though, nowadays. Where are they going?
Millennials are not tied down to one job, like traditionally, like my age or older than me.
Yeah.
If you say, so I'm a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
So then you have the baby people, the boomers and Gen Xers. Hey, I get a good job. I'm able to support my family.
Yeah.
I like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they'd stay in that job for 20 years unless something really good came along that would make a move. Sure. Millennials aren't committed to that. They're not committed like that. They'll leave. You're in a job for 3 months. It's time for me to go. I got something better.
Sure.
Or I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't know if it's work ethic or they're more free spirited. I don't know.
Yeah. It seemed like it happened with COVID, though, too.
Well, a lot of people got into that working remote.
Yeah.
Like Google had a big issue when they started saying, hey, you got to come back to the
Oh yeah.
You got to come back to the office.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I don't want to come back to the office. Well,
Me too.
you got, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't work here anymore.
Sure.
What did Elon do? Elon took over X, and you know, he fired almost all of them. You know, he shrunk that force. And Google, you saw the videos of like Google. The lady had a video of her going to work. You know, she goes to work, checks her emails, she goes to the spa, she goes and has breakfast, goes to the gym. Like, really, how much work are you doing? You know,
You do that from home.
yeah, you're paying you $100,000, and you do 20 minutes of work, and then you put it on video showing you only did 20 minutes of work for the day.
Not a good idea.
We're going to shrink that workforce. We're going to do more with less because we don't need that.
Yeah. That's interesting. COVID changed so much.
Yeah, they got. I think a lot of people got, and their lifestyle changed.
Sure.
We were very lucky when COVID hit. Christian, they didn't have any classes, so he came home. Sean was having to do high school work from home, and it was really bad for him because both of them. It's not just the school; it's being in school. It's the socialization, you know, being with other people of your age category. But it was great because we were at home. You know, we didn't have anything to do. You know, I was doing some jobs, but most of my work is outside or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And we were all home. We'd set out, you know, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning on the back porch, just, you know, gabbing, you know, watching our favorite shows and stuff, and not having to get up in the morning. So it helped bring us closer as a family, I think. And I actually lost my mom during she died from COVID. So she died on Thanksgiving Day.
Oh wow! Sorry.
Right after the election.
Yeah.
And her 80th birthday would have been on the 30th. So we were all home together, and you know, and I was the medical surrogate for her. So, and she was up in North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yeah.
But my sister said, I can't do it.
Sure.
She's like, you're going to have to be the medical surrogate, because my mom has specifically, she didn't want to ever be put on a vent.
Sure.
So when it came time, you know, the doctor said, well, we can't do anything else for her. We're going to put her in hospice. And I had to call my, and that was a hard thing, having to call your family. And my sister, she's like, Mike, don't tell me that my mom's going to die today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, she probably is, Lisa.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more they could do for her. And I was lucky I had a friend that went through the same thing, so I kind of knew the stages of how it happened.
Yeah.
So it was just hard. But it did bring us closer together as our small family unit.
Yeah.
It was hard. But everybody got in that habit, you know.
Sure.
And a lot of organizations and businesses found out from that, hey, wait a minute, who is truly essential to this organization?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was all essential workers. And with my business, well, I'm pretty much the business, so I'm essential. I'm not going to stop doing my job.
Right.
I am essential. So, you know, if the cops are stopping people, say, hey, well, you're not supposed to be on. Well, I'm essential, bud. I'm the business. I'm the owner of the business.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
But, you know, finding out who's actually critical to an organization to keep functioning, a lot of organizations had to realize that and see it.
Yeah, it was a weird time. But I like what you just said there about it drawing your family close together.
Yeah.
Because I saw some of the opposite. People who are not used to being around each other, now they're around each other too much. They're like, I don't like you that much. And so the domestics were up and all that stuff. So yeah.
I never did the research on COVID babies, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if the population went up significantly.
Like a baby boomer thing?
Well, really, they'll probably call them COVID babies. I'm a COVID baby.
Yeah,
well, like when I went through OCS, you know, that was 2002, so it was after 9/11. And a lot of kids, like I had a kid we stay pretty good friends, Mike Warren. He was a 9/11, but we call him 9/11 babies. He had his degree, but when 9/11 happened, he's like, I want to go in the military, I want to serve my country, and I want to go kill terrorists. Yeah. And that's what he did. And we both got the same branch, so we went through he went through basic training, and then he came into OCS with me.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of those kids that were in there. We had kids from like Columbia, all major universities that had their degree and they wanted to serve. And then you had all us older guys that were sergeant first class, staff sergeants that were moving up. Because I was in an MOS, so there wasn't very much upward mobility and I'm like, okay. And a friend of mine went to OCS and he said, hey, Mike. He's like, well, I said, he came back and I said, hey, I said, how was it? He said, not too bad. And I said, okay. He said, how much college do you have? I said, I probably have around 90 hours. He's like, you need to put in a packet. So I put in a packet and got accepted, and got my branch designation. And went through OCS with all those kids. And, everybody went around about when we started OCS, our TAC NCO, which is in charge of our platoon, he said, he pulled me and this one other guy in his office. He said, look, he said, Ben, he said, you're going to be the platoon leader. He said, Mike, you're going to be the platoon sergeant. Because Ben was ex-Special Forces. Well, Special Forces designation. He still had his tab, not X. He never X anything.
Sure.
He said, you're going to be the platoon leader. And then he said, Mike, you're going to be the platoon sergeant because you were a drill sergeant. I went from training people and get them all that gruff going through basic and AIT to being that guy again. It is a transition. I was actually talking to Tracy on the phone before I started. I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do this. She's like, well, you're there. Go ahead. So I go from being a basic trainee to all that stuff, training trainees, and then becoming the trainee again. So we had a pretty, we had a good class, and it dwindled down. We had, I think we had like 5 or 6 warrant officers that were trying to get their commission. And after the first week, first 2 or 3 days, they're like, I'm done. Like, it's not worth it for me. Going through that and having to be treated like privates again, to be trained. So, but it's just, it was just, generations are different. Everybody's got their motivations.
Yeah, I agree. Motivations are changing and stuff like that. As society moves along. Like, did you grow up here, or is this where you landed after you finished the military?
No, I'm originally from South Carolina.
Okay.
So when I was 18, I was actually enlisted before I ever graduated high school. So as soon as I graduated, I went to basic training at Fort Jackson, and I never went back. I never went back home. All my family stay within 200-mile radius of our hometown.
Okay.
But I never went back. And it was 2003, I started looking because Tracy said, Mike, we're never going to be able to afford a house in Florida if we don't, do something now.
Sure.
So by 2006, we started out, we had a contract with Seagate down in Edgewater.
Okay.
And it was just, we had got in a contract. We had paid them $33,333. We were in the contract. And we were still living in Oklahoma. And they contacted, they said, look, we can't build those houses for what you're in a contract for. So you're going to have to pay the increased amount or we'll let you out of the contract.
Sure.
So I was like, okay, just send us our money back. We're out of the contract. And then Tracy found Palm Coast. Okay, it was a growing community, good schools, and it's like back then it was one of the fastest growing communities in the country. And the schools were very good from what we could see. So I was in captain's career course. So I had to complete the captain's career course. So her and the kids came here in 2006, and I followed behind. So we moved here in June of 2006. Her and the kids. She closed on the house. I wasn't even with her. She closed with a notary my signature on a power of attorney because I was still in school out there. And as soon as I graduated captain's career course, I was put on a MIT team going over to Iraq during the surge. So I was on it's called a MIT team, military training assistance, whatever. And I was on an 11-man team, and we went in and we embedded with the Iraqi army to train them and to fight with them.
Yeah.
So that Tracy and the kids came here, and I finished up that course, and I went to Iraq. And so we would train them during the day, and they'd try to kill us at night. So we got there right after they hung Saddam on Fob Justice, which is in the heart of Baghdad. So our area responsibility was the Holy Qadamiyya Shrine, and the unit we were attached to, that was their area, and their whole thing was to protect the mosque and the community right there in the heart of Baghdad. So it was like an 800, 900 man Iraqi battalion. They had one company that was plain clothes, and all they did was security for the mosque. So that's, and like I said, we train them during the day, and they try to kill us at night.
Like, actually try and kill you? Or
we had one situation. I shouldn't even talk about that.
Because I was like, okay, you train them, and then like they're supposed to do like a surprise attack with airsoft guns or something.
No, it was just like on a lot of them was convoy attacks and stuff like that. So that was when the IEDs were big. And I don't know, the EFPs, and the EFP is a metal shaft, like that thick metal cylinder. And they put this concave copper on it, and they tack weld it all the way around, and then they put the explosives behind it. Well, they were putting that along the curves, and they'd use like that spray foam insulation, and they painted it to look just like a curve. So my first 6 months in Baghdad during that tour, and I was a captain, I was a 50 cal gunner on top of a Humvee. So I was the primary gunner for the team. And the first 6 months in Baghdad, going to the green zone, all the different patrols and cordon and searches and stuff we did, I didn't even see Baghdad. All I saw was 525 looking for IEDs along the roads that would kill us. So that's what we were dealing with. That was probably the scariest thing that I ever experienced in the military. When I was getting ready to go over there, I got a big life insurance policy. If I would have been killed, Tracy would have gotten like $1.2 million. And I told her, I said, when I left, I said, Tracy, this is probably the most dangerous assignment I'm probably going to have in the military. And I'm like, just be prepared. And, I'm like my major, when he first called me, he's like, yeah, did you volunteer? I'm like, no, I've already been to Iraq 2 times. I wasn't volunteering for anything. They snagged me coming out of Captain's Creek. And the funny thing, our branch manager came down and said, yeah, you guys are doing great. We're gonna try to get you the assignments that you want. No. As soon as he got back to DZ, all these guys got these orders for MIT team. Like, my goodness gracious. This is how it happened for me. I received my commission. I went through OBC. I was assigned to a battalion, a training battalion, and I was the XO of a training battalion. And they said, oh, we're moving these people over to 3 Corps. You're all going to go to war. And so I went over there as a platoon leader. I did MLRS. So I was an ammo platoon leader. Then I took over a couple of platoons within a battery. So I had 6 launchers, 6 MLRS launchers, M270s. And so I come back from there. I do degree completion, and then I went through the Captain's Career Course, and then they snagged me to go right back to Iraq. I'm like, come on! It was just crazy. But that's when her and the kids came. They came in 2006, and I came back, and in 2009, I was actually my last assignment at the Jacksonville Battalion. And I pretty much told my branch manager, I'm like, I don't care about promotion. I just want to get home. Because I had a job lined up at Embry-Riddle. And I'm like, hey, I got a job at Embry-Riddle as being an assistant professor of military science. And they're like, no, we're sending you to Atlanta. Send me 6 hours away when Daytona's right there. I'm like, whatever. It's just military logic. I'm like, okay, whatever. But so I spent those last from 2009 to 2012 at Jacksonville. And then I retired, and and then I went on from there. So it was crazy, but we love the city. June will be 18 years for us. So both our kids went through the education system here, Christian was actually in the first graduating class that went all the way from Belterre Elementary all the way through Matanzas High School.
Okay.
So he was in that generation. He didn't do, I think, kindergarten or first grade. He did out in Oklahoma, but the rest of it was, and Sean did everything. He went through his VBS at our church.
Yeah.
And then he went through all the schools. So they both and so we've seen the city grow. We've seen, the school system. We know the school system and the community. We both have small businesses. So we've met a lot of people. And in this process now, we're meeting even more people. And I think I have a good following of people that their values align with ours, because my whole platform is these are the things that we need to do in the city to get us right. Because if we don't do it, the city's going to continue to suffer. Yeah. So my platform is geared to help the city. We're embedded in the community. This is our home, and we want to do the right things for the city.
Sure.
And we see how the political games are played here, and it's just a lot of people are tired of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not. And like on my Facebook Live, and we're using it as a clip, as a band, it's not politics to me, it's personal.
Sure.
Because we need to do the right things for our city and get us on the right track. And specifically with bringing jobs into the community.
Sure.
I don't, like you said, you don't look into all of us and all the stuff that's going on, but 90% of our tax revenue comes from individual homeowners.
Okay.
And that's just lopsided.
Okay.
We need more industry, commercial industries that are going to, one, provide jobs, and two, help diversify our tax base.
Yeah.
Because it's not sustainable over time. And the powers that be actually say it out loud that they're going to build. And once they can't build anymore, all the developers are going to move on to the next place. They're going to build. And they said, we'll build until the tax is raised too high, and then we'll get out. They've actually said it, and we have it. We've captured the audio of them saying it. So we have to work, and we need the right people in place to do that, because you can't just keep, like this last budget cycle, the budget hadn't been signed by the governor yet, but more than 50% of the money that's coming to this county, not just Palm Coast, the county, is for that road out west.
Okay.
And that's land that hadn't even been annexed into the city yet. So I don't know if you're familiar with all the roads, but
no.
It's going to, Matanzas Woods Parkway, it's going to loop out west, all that acreage out there, and it's going to come back around to Palm Coast Parkway.
Okay.
And that's open, it's supposed to be open up development out there.
Okay.
But it does our city no good if all you're going to do is put more houses out there.
Sure.
You're just going to put more strain on our infrastructure. And and I tell people this all the time, and some people, I get pushback on it, but Palm Coast has never been a retirement community. People say, well, we want it to be a retirement. Palm Coast has never been a retirement community. It is a blue collar community with people working every day, going to work, feeding their families. And it's not a retirement community, and we have to be focused on that. And they're talking about bringing in younger people. Well, younger people need amenities, they need schools, they need jobs.
Sure.
Right now we have 25,000 people, if not more now, because the last tally I had, we have 25,000 people leave the county every morning to go work somewhere else.
Yeah. You not get that tax base because they're working somewhere else? How does that work?
They're going somewhere else. They're bringing their money back to the city, but we need jobs here in the city. We need that money from those industry and commercial industries that's going to feed our taxes, paying our tax, because you can't rely on more and more housing, And if the market crashes again like it did before, home values are going to go down. Like, we paid $205 for our first house.
Yeah.
And that was 06. And you know what happened after 06? 06, 09, the market tanked, right?
Right.
We lost like 100. Our home value went from 205 down to like 145.
Oh wow.
I could not have moved Tracy and the kids out of this city if I wanted to. I was underwater.
Yeah.
So if we had to go through something like that again, without the industrial growth to support our tax base, the city and the county are going to lose a lot of revenue, because if those home values are assessed for lower, that's going to be less money coming into the taxes to pay for all, the infrastructure and all that stuff. But back to the whole 50% of the money going to that road. They didn't set their priorities right. At the top of their list of priorities was that road out west. So they got 79.8, close to $80 million. I think that's the right number. But last year they got 25.5 million. So all that money is going to that westward expansion.
Yeah.
And at the bottom of the list, almost at the bottom of the list, second from the bottom, was water treatment plant 1 that needs to be expanded. And they requested from the state $35 million for that. So and I told them and I actually stood up and told them at the city council, your priorities are wrong. You got to, then they turn around and they're talking about on November 14th, they had a meeting with Mr. Flanagan. He was the head of the water management. He's like, we need to increase rates to pay for this expansion, and this is the kind of money we need. And they showed out how they need to schedule it out and implement the increases.
Yeah.
But that would have been the whole dynamic would have been changed if we knew we were getting $35 million to do that, instead of asking the residents to pay that money.
Sure.
And the state budget was geared towards shoring up our infrastructure and our roads and our like Old Kings Road. They got stuff slated, but they asked the state for $42 million for north from Palm Coast Parkway and south, a total of $42 million.
Right.
Well, where's that money going to come from? If we can't get grants or any other top funding, it's going to come from the tax base.
Yeah.
And what's the tax base? 90% of the tax base is residential housing. So it's going to keep straining. And like I said, we are not a retirement community. We need industrial growth. And if they're not focusing on that westward expansion to put in a large portion of that property designated industrial, we're making a huge mistake. I think they already made a mistake at one time. When you come to the end of Matanzas Woods Parkway, you got the roundabout. But back in the day, there was a sign out there that said industrial. And I'm sure you've been in Florida for a while, but usually US 1 in any city is designated for industrial and commercial. It's not housing. It's industrial. If you go up to Jacksonville, US 1, down on the beach, US 1 is industrial and shops and all that stuff.
Yeah. Sure.
And if we don't get that in our city, our tax is going to be out of control. And
because they're just going to be taxing residents.
And people are going to keep fleeing. The median income in our city is between $61,000 and $65,000.
Okay.
You can't afford to live in Palm Coast on that. So it's a struggle for people to make it. We're blessed, and me and my wife both were retired, and we own our small business. But it's tough for people, and the people that are moving here, and I think they gave a stat of the people that are moving here have a median household income of $150,000.
Right.
Well, those people at 61 and 65, they're going to wind up fleeing. Yeah. So you got people that spent their whole lives in Florida, can't afford to live here anymore. So it's called upward mobility. We need to provide upward mobility for our residents, and also an outlet for the kids coming out of high school.
Sure.
Because like our kids, I don't expect Sean or Christian to ever come back and live in Palm Coast. I would hope that we could fix it and make it so that they would. But these kids are very education oriented. Like I said, Christian got his degree in aerospace engineering.
Yeah.
Why don't we tap into that and try to get industries that are focused on building those components and stuff for the space industry? Because we're just a hop, skip, and a jump from the Space Coast.
Yeah.
And I-95, we got the I-95, we got US 1, and we got the railroad.
Yeah.
So you have to use those resources, to integrate industrial growth to sustain this community, because it's not a retirement community. And people may want that, but there's a lot of people that have kids in schools here.
Yeah.
And those kids have to have something when they come out, because not everybody's going to go to college.
Sure.
And like me, I grew up in a small town that didn't have any work. I graduated high school in 1988. And that was like, oh, what am I going to do when I graduate high school?
Yeah.
Work in a convenience store. So that's why I enlisted, and that's why I never went back, because I knew there was nothing there for me, other than going down the wrong path. Because a lot of the kids, all the people I ran with when I was growing up, they're dead.
Really?
I'm 54 years old, and most of my friends are dead or in prison,
because there was
nothing there. You get in a life of crime, or you go to work, or whatever. You fall into addiction, and that's not what I wanted from my life.
Yeah.
And I think that we've been truly blessed, and we've had we were talking about it yesterday or the day before, and I was like, we have a successful family.
Yeah.
And we've done the right things for our kids, and we want them to have a future. And the kids are like, please, you guys we want to be able to come home to our hometown, because this is their hometown.
Sure.
But for them, for what average family probably need to make $150,000 to survive. There's no jobs like that here, but we got to try to do what we can to bring them here.
Sure.
So that's my focus. That is my focus. Fixing our infrastructure, making sure our priorities are right, and getting jobs in our community, bringing those, reaching out to those organizations. Like I would love to have. Well, it's on the downslide now because of, I guess, just economic conditions. EV manufacturers,
that'd be interesting.
Semiconductor manufacturing. They just started talking about this data center. I think they have 36 acres out there. Well, if that's going to be a campus for that kind of high tech, high speed jobs,
sure,
I'm all for it. Bring them in here. Let's get it done. And I hope we can see it through fruition, and they're able to grow that organization. And some people are concerned about it. But that's what I did that when I worked as anti-terrorism critical infrastructure with the Marine Corps over in Oakland, Iowa. Vulnerability assessments of facilities like that. I had some of the most vital assets in the United States military's strategically.
Yeah.
I was charged with protecting that kind of stuff. And taking care of the community, the installations I was in. Because that's that job in Oakland, Iowa. We had 3 installations.
Yeah.
So my boss was pretty much the mayor, and we handled everything, all the infrastructure, security, working with facilities on housing and everything, stem to stern. We did everything, special events, all that stuff. And it's about proper management and taking care of people. And you think people complain in Palm Coast? Piss off some military wives. Piss off some military wives and see what happens. So we dealt with all that stuff. And if we can get industry like that in here, that's high speed. And people are worried about it because it puts a target on Palm Coast. Well, those facilities, anytime I had any facilities like that, they're very unassuming.
Sure.
You wouldn't know what it was. If you didn't know what it was, you wouldn't know what it was.
It's over there doing what it needs.
And you have to do the vulnerability assessments.
Yeah.
And take care of it and protect assets like that. That's just
Thank you.
But we have to do something. We can't just sit here stagnant and think that fast food chains or wholesale like BJ's or whatever, that's great. We need stuff like that. But those jobs are not providing that upward mobility for people.
Sure.
And that's what we have to fix.
Interesting. So one of the things that I've heard before as I've been talking to other mayoral candidates is the strain on infrastructure, as you said, the growth as it relates to people coming here. There's not enough services and stuff for them. You're nodding your head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, right now, if you go back 10 years ago, we didn't have these traffic problems because the population has grown so much, and it's like a burst, and people are upset with it, and we need to expand, especially Old Kings Road. That is a main artery. If we widen that up to 4 lanes, 6 lanes, that's going to alleviate some of the strains on the roads. The flooding issues, that is just something that's unacceptable, and you can't say, well, this or that. Well, it's poor management, and you can't let. It's already there. All watershed issues have to be taken care of before they issue that certificate of occupancy.
Sure.
So, we got to hold people accountable. Hold people accountable in government that are in charge of stuff like that. And get the right people in position that can push those organizations and reach out to those organizations and say, hey, we need you to, this is what, people, what is it, like the number one place to move to in Florida. Well, okay, let's be the number one place to bring your business to in Florida.
Sure.
Because we need it. We only have 3% or less of our land in our city that is designated for industrial.
Oh, wow.
3%. And they say 25% is healthy.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's not healthy at all.
It's not healthy. It's anemic.
Yeah.
So if they don't reach out, the organizations, and it all comes down to zoning. If they want to annex that property into the city, well, it's got to be something that's going to benefit the city. You can't just say, well, we're going to annex you in and you're going to strain more of our infrastructure without providing something that's beneficial to the city and the residents. It's just bad business.
Yeah.
It's just bad business. What, if I let you come, if you need a place to stay for a while, I say, okay, I'll let you take up my spare bedroom. Well, what's in it for me? You're not going to be living here for free. You got to do something. You got to clean up after yourself. You got to take out the trash. You got to, cut the grass. Something. It's got to be beneficial to everyone. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
I've never used that type of analogy of lending somebody a spare bedroom, but
it makes sense. Yeah.
It's got to be beneficial.
Sure.
You can't just say, hey, we're just going to bring more people
and have the same resources available. Yeah.
And they're pushing the CDD things, the community development district, and it's just adding another level of government to the citizens.
Yeah.
And really, some things you see, it's like, hey, well, after a while, those assessments and all those fees, because they're supposed to take care of their own roads and their own infrastructure and stuff like that. Well, it could be a strain on the residents there. And it's like, well, it's hard to get out of them because those fees are going up, and then you got people that will complain after a while. They'll say, well, we're in this CDD, we're taking care of our own streets and our own infrastructure, but we're still paying the regular tax that everyone else pays.
Sure.
And after a while, you might get some pushback from that, and so we're in a very precarious situation right now. We have got to do something, and have the foresight to say, look, this is what we need to do. And I've seen some of the moves they made that are, it's nonsensical that they would do it, like this place here, European Village.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure the nightlife and stuff down here, it gets to hopping at night and on the weekends. But right now, if you go out there, look.
Yeah, it's empty in the day.
Yeah, it's not that many people.
Sure.
And the Marina project, I'll go back to that. The Marina project, and if you come to the end of Clubhouse, you have the Palm Coast Resort sitting back there. You got the only parking deck in the city right there on the corner. But that whole swath of land that goes up around the marina, it was originally zoned for a destination resort. That's why the zoning was the way it was.
Mhm.
So I guess the people bailed on it. Somebody else bought it, and they rezoned it so they could put townhouses and condos in there. With the destination resort that it was initially designed for, designated for, and like I told you earlier, we would have got 371 permanent and full-time jobs here in the city. Not to mention the tertiary jobs that would have come from that facility being there.
Sure.
So instead of the 300, and this is the one that gets me, instead of the 371 jobs, the destination resort with 40,000 square feet of ballroom, shops, restaurants, all that stuff, we're getting a total number of 371 housing units in there.
Oh,
At the end of Clubhouse Drive, which is going to put a strain on Clubhouse for that traffic in and out. The other parkway that goes along there, Palm Harbor, all those people that are moving in there, not to mention the people that come in that's going to have kids that have to go to school.
yeah.
So it's just straining our resources more and more and more. And people are starting to say, hey, this is, and there's people, we have friends that say, hey, we're leaving.
Really?
Yeah. You have people from South Florida that moved up here to get away from that. Because Tracy, my wife's from South Florida.
Okay.
And Fort Lauderdale. And so Fort Lauderdale kept growing, and then you got all those subdivisions out on the west side. You got Weston, Sunrise, all those areas just kept growing and growing and growing. And people from down there, especially Miami, I met one gentleman, I'm friends with him on Facebook. He moved up from there. And he said, Mike, we can't have the same thing happen here that happened down there. It's nothing but a concrete jungle down there.
Okay.
And some people may like that. And there's a lot of people that move from up north that, I had one lady, I was painting her father's house.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, he's going to stay here, but we're going to move down to Boca because it's more stuff. They wanted, more stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we need more stuff and we need jobs and something that's going to counterbalance the strain on the residential houses. Because the people that are moving in now, and do you own a home or do you rent? You own a home. Okay, so you have
Yeah, but I don't live in Palm Coast.
but I'm just saying Florida in general. You have protected value in your house.
Yeah.
How long have you been in your house?
Since June.
Okay, so you don't have any protection. Unless you move from somewhere else because it's portable. Did you move from somewhere else in Florida?
We were renting for like a year and a half.
Anyway, the longer you stay in your house with homestead,
Sure.
you have protected value.
Right.
So the more years you're here, there's less that they can tax you on your house.
Right.
And then you have the exemptions, the two exemptions, and if you're military or a widow or disabled, you get more exemptions and less money taken off the tax bill. So in the real estate industry, say me, Mike Norris, if me and Tracy up and move, and you get somebody from Colorado or New Jersey or Michigan, they move in, they don't have that protected value.
Sure.
And they don't have homestead. They have to apply for homestead and then get it. So that increases the taxes. Their taxes are a much higher level than ours because they don't have that, But that's not the way to run a city. You can't depend on pushing people out of their houses, having a different tax base come in and starting from scratch, paying a higher tax bill. That's just it's not good. It's not good for the community, and it's certainly not good for families that have been here for years. And I can't afford it. I got to leave.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move to another state. I'm gonna lose my homestead.
Yeah.
It's not fair. I don't like using that word fair because people misuse a lot, but it's really not. It's not fair to the community of people that have, stayed here and, when people talk, we have politicians in this county that actually talk about how unfair the homestead exemption is. Okay. Back when Henry Flagler was coming down here and he was trying to get people to come here during those times, they created that homestead exemption and say, hey, look, you move to Florida, this is what you get. It's an incentive to move. Well, now the way I see homestead, and politicians can argue with me if they want, homestead exemption now is to protect greedy politicians from taxing us out of our houses.
Okay.
Because once you get that protected value, don't say, they're not paying their fair share. Well, what's my fair share? Anybody that ever tells you that, they're not paying their fair share. So, well, what is their fair share?
Sure.
Politicians do that, but they're not paying their fair share. Well, they won't tell you exactly what that fair share, is fair share half the money I earn?
Right.
Is fair share 75% of what I earn? Or is it 25? Tell me what my fair share is. And who the hell are you to tell me what my fair share is? I'm paying my taxes, and I don't want people to have to flee this city because they can't afford to live here. And we've been very, very blessed, and we're in a good situation right now. But a lot of people aren't. People are struggling. Now, unemployment rate is staying around 4%, but you don't know what those. But it doesn't account for secondary jobs. So you might do this during the day, and then you got a side hustle. So say whatever you do. Say you work 8 hours a day, and I know plenty of people that do it. Yeah. Work 8 hours a day at say the optometry clinic, and then you're a bartender at the Elks or the VFW just to make ends meet. And it takes two mom and dad working day and night to support their kids and keep above the water, and make sure their kids are taken care of. Yeah. But at what cost? Right. Because we were fortunate enough that Tracy was able to stay at home with the boys, and that's why I think our kids are so successful and so smart, is because that's the traditional family, right? Mom's at home with the kids, dad's working. Even if I was away a lot, and Tracy took on that burden, but she kept the kids on the straight and narrow. Right. And they became successful, and they're moving on, and they're going to have great lives. But, families are struggling, and we have to do something to help. We have to help. We have to provide that upward mobility. And the sooner these powers that be in our community realize that, the better off we're going to be. Yeah. And that's the kind of change. And if we get the right people on the city council, we can make those things happen, and get the right people on the staff that know about economic development and recruiting those businesses to come in here. That's what we got to do. It's plain and simple. We can't keep relying on residential housing tax base. Sure. We can't do it. And eventually the construction jobs for building houses is going to go away. Right. And so that's what it's called, diversification, diversifying your tax base. You have to do it. And I think Bedell's and the county commissioner are pushing that on like the south end, but that's the county. We need it for the city. Sure. Because we already paid to the county. How about bringing that into and it can be beneficial for the county as well, but we need it for us, for our community. And the sooner they see the light, the better off we're going to be. Yeah. So you're really passionate about that specific area. Yeah. I want to pivot a little bit. What other areas are you specifically passionate about? Actually, are reasons for why you're running? I think because we've been here long enough to see the political environment and how things are done around here. And I won't get into the specifics on it, but my whole platform, there's an acronym. It's RAISE. And I had, when this was back in January, February, I had a meeting at my house, and we had like 11 leaders within the community, people that I know within the political landscape. And we all came together at my house, and it was platform meeting. That's what you do. You have to come up with your platform. And we narrowed it down to 5 things. And those 5 things are revitalizing existing infrastructure, attracting industrial growth and job opportunities, increasing public safety and security, smart growth and expansion, and empowering the commercial development of the town center district. Okay. Because before we even came here, the town center was supposed to be that draw to get people in here. And they used it for their advertising, and we've done nothing with it. We got a theater. We moved the city hall to out there. And you got those apartment buildings going in. And there's one developer is going to start this, the original concept. You have the shops on the bottom floor, and then you have housing and stuff on the top floor to generate more revenue for the city.
Yeah.
So that was my platform. And all those things we came up with. And the next morning after the meeting, I'm like, how can I put it? Because I'm a military guy.
Yeah.
And I remember acronyms.
Yeah.
You remember acronyms, right?
Sure.
So I got up the next morning, I'm sitting on the back window, I said, how can I put this into an acronym? And I really had to have it focused on, because the city council gave themselves that 151% pay raise. And that's the first time I ever stood up at a city council meeting, because it really pissed me off.
Right.
Because you can't call yourself a conservative and give yourself a 151% pay raise. It's just, you can't do it. So I sat down and I looked at all those things and I'm like, okay, how can I beat this? And that's where I came up with the acronym RAISE.
Okay.
So it puts in everybody's mind when they see it, RAISE. Yeah, those are the guys that gave themselves 151% pay raise.
Yeah.
And people have people recognize it and they see it, and we have 3 people left on that city council that was responsible for that.
Yeah.
3 votes that are on it. 1 is term limited out, 1 is running for county, and 1 is the mayor. So, and when I stood up at that city council meeting, I said, if you guys pass this pay raise, I'm going to do everything in my power to get you out of office. And that's specifically what I'm doing, because our city deserves better than that.
Yeah.
And I know I'm better than that. And if we get the right people on the city council, we can make some change. But those 3 fellows, the 2 ladies, Miss Pontieri and Miss Hyder, I have a good relationship with them. And I can work with those ladies. But those other 3, they're not good for Palm Coast, and it will be better off when they're gone. And I'm sure they're fine people, but you can't be leading this city, not in these economic times, because you've already demonstrated, won that pay raise.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was
the Marina project and all the development they're allowing without focusing on infrastructure. We already mentioned the Marina project that they voted to increase the density and the zoning on that. So we got a lot of work to do. But that acronym, that's my platform, and those are the things that I'm focusing on.
I like that. Now, I want to kind of pivot once more. There were a couple questions that I had mentioned to Chase, who's your campaign manager, about, well, they were questions I had sent to Peter Johnson, questions I sent to Alan Lowe. Now, one of the questions obviously doesn't apply to you.
Well, let's wait. I didn't see him.
You didn't see him?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So if you gave him a chase, I didn't see him. So this is not fresh to me, but go ahead.
Okay.
Well, that's transparency. I haven't seen him. So what?
Well,
give it to me.
So the reason why is because I sent them first to Peter Johnson. He didn't want to see them, but the fact is they were sent. And so each person after that, I've sent them to because I want fairness and for everybody to have the same opportunity.
Well, it's just a personal. You don't want to blindside someone with a question.
And, none of the interviews I've done have been gotcha sessions. It's just really a conversation where people can talk about why they're running, stuff like that, which I think is a little bit different than maybe some of the interviews that are going on. So, that said, there were 3 questions. 1 didn't apply to you. For Peter Johnson, 1 was the age thing, and obviously you're not of his age, so therefore that one doesn't apply. But there were 2 other ones that I want to focus on. One of which is, would you opt to have a forensic audit done of the city, essentially?
I've already said this, and I even said it on my Facebook Live. And I just had a meeting with the acting city manager, the human resources manager, one of the human resources manager, and the head of the financial services for the city. And the financial services, those guys have received awards because they're budgeting and everything they do. The thing about it, forensic audits, and people, if you're not going to, I'm not going to vote for you because you don't want to do a forensic audit. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to change my mind on it. My perspective on this, if the citizens of the city think that there's corruption in our city, and they come up with they have a lead, just a thread. And there's a lot of people out here on this, during this election cycle, they're doing a lot of research and they're finding a lot of things. And a lot of them are, working together to get to the bottom of it.
Sure.
But if there's something that that the citizens feel that warrants a forensic audit, they need to make a complaint to the Attorney General and to the Inspector General of the state.
Right.
Because and I don't want to burden the city. And the guy that just did the audit, they just got their audit results from the organization, the firm that does their auditing. Mm-hmm. They didn't find anything that, measurable. If there's something that someone feels, I can't see us, I'm sorry, the guy from the auditing firm said, because they were asking about a forensic audit, and it could range, depending on the scope of the audit, it could range from $50,000 to $500,000.
Oh, wow.
So it all depends. Do you want to audit the city all the way back to its inception, or do you want to start at this point, or you got something narrow and focused where we need to focus? Say fleet management, for example. Okay, we think there's corruption in fleet management. Okay, can you narrow it down in scope? So, okay. But if we don't have that, it could be very costly to the city. And I think we waste enough money to begin with. We don't need to be pouring $500,000 into a forensic audit when it's going to come up. And this is what I told them in the meeting with Ms. Johnson and the rest of the staff just last week. That's why I was not able to make your meeting last week. I told them, I said, there's no reason to do that. I know you guys are doing your job, but if there's no specific and you can't narrow it down, I don't see it wasting that type of money for something. Oh, it would be, say, I need to audit you.
Yeah.
I want to audit you, but you're going to get to pick the person that's going to do the audit. So if you're corrupt to the core, and you're going to get a firm that's going to tell you what you want to hear. And it's not like an inspector general inspection like I've been through in the military for 24 years. The inspector general has their things that they want to specifically look at. And sometimes it's a full inspection of the organization. Sure. Or they could say, okay, Mike, you're the head of human resources and personnel management for the battalion. We're going to come down and we're going to audit your individual section. And that's how inspector general inspections go. Each subsection of the organization, say supply, operations, financial services, human resources, they come down and they're going to say, okay, this is what we're going to inspect. So if you have something that you think is really corrupt within the city, if you go to I can guarantee you, if you go to the Attorney General and especially the Inspector General, and you say, this is the evidence I have of what they're doing down in Palm Coast, they're going to pay for that investigation. I would hope they would pay for it. They would say, okay, we're coming down because there's a real issue. We think there's corruption in the city, and we're going to stamp it out. We're going to get Palm Coast on the straight and narrow. But I am not in favor of wasting more money because we outsource a lot of stuff to organizations. They're paying for all these studies, like the traffic study, over $100,000 for a traffic study for the city. I think $36,000 specifically for Florida Park Drive. The check and see if they should do something to control the traffic on that street. You know, that's what I'm in favor of. If you want to do something like that, you come down from the adjutant, the Inspector General, the Attorney General, and maybe even FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. They have investigating services. But I can't see And the other two guys, like I said, I couldn't watch their interviews. So your Allen video isn't out yet, but that is not something I'm in favor of. And I'm sorry, but if you're a one issue voter, that's not an issue I'm going to change my mind on.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
So for you, is it simply because there's a lack of evidence, or more like a witch hunt?
Yes. Well, I don't know how much evidence is out there. Like I said, people come to me with stuff every day.
Okay.
But I know those ladies well, not just ladies, but the financial services, they have won awards for their budgeting process and how they present the budget and stuff. Unless you can narrow it down, and I have people that are working my campaign that are looking at the city finances and stuff. Unless you can narrow it down to say specifically and be able to put a price tag on it, but you got to have the right leadership. If you say the city council is corrupt, well, if they're going to get to pick the firm, they're going to you inspect what you expect, or expect what you inspect, whatever. But I'm just not in favor. It's just not something that I will entertain unless there's some evidence that comes to me that says we specifically need this.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Another of the questions was basically, how do you take city council and connect more with people? Like, how do you bridge that gap that's there?
Oh, man.
It's transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And getting out in the community. Right now, like our city council meeting on Tuesday, they did some proclamations, so there was a few extra people in there.
Sure.
But usually, like when they terminated the city manager, at the end, one of the council members actually said, it's shameful that there's only two people in here. It was me and one other person, maybe two other people that were in the room. And this is right after they terminated the city manager.
Yeah.
So people aren't engaged with the city council. And part of it is most of the meetings are during the day at 9 a.m. on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Every other week or whatever they have to do.
Makes it difficult.
It makes it difficult. And that's one of the things that I would like to do. And someone asked, well, how would you pay the staff for them being at meetings at night? You should have them at night. If you have them at night, that's more people, more working class people are able to make those meetings and give their input and what they think's wrong or right with the city, and they're more engaged.
Yeah.
And people say, well, how are you going to compensate the staff? Well, if you're a salaried employee and you're a head of one of the departments in the city, you can be there for a 4-hour meeting on a Tuesday night.
Sure.
You offset your hours. And we did it as federal employees all the time.
Yeah.
So if I had an event to do on, say, Thursday, I had a 4-hour event I had to do on Thursday. Well, Monday and Tuesday or Tuesday, Wednesday, I take 2 hours each day and, go home early or come in early. It's called flexing your schedule. You just trim those 4 hours from somewhere else, but you're going to be at those meetings. If you're a department head and we need your input, you're going to be there. Or you arrange to have a representative that has authority to speak on your behalf to be at that meeting. Yeah. So a lot of it is moving those meetings from in the morning to at night to allow more people to come. And the only time the place is packed is when there's a big issue.
Okay.
And people on social media has put out, hey, everybody needs to show up, like when they were trying to do the FP&L franchise fee. Well, it was a packed house because everybody's like, no, you're not. You want to charge me a fee. You want to charge a fee for my light bill to pay for my roads. You know how stupid that sounds?
Yeah, that's stupid.
No, that's not the way you do it. Yeah. You're going to add a fee to my light bill to help you pay for my roads that I already pay taxes to fix my roads.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way to do it. And they're starting to do these town halls, and I have no problem with that. The thing about it is, the town halls, you got 5 people on that council.
Yeah.
They can't, everything they do has to be in that chamber.
Sure.
So there's no crosstalk, or there's not supposed to be under sunshine law. Like you're a city council member and I'm the mayor, and we're sitting here shoot shit.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just talking back and forth. So what if we do this? No, they can't do that.
Oh, okay.
Sunshine law prevents that.
Interesting.
That's why they say, well, why don't the council members have a better relationship? Well, they can't by law.
Oh.
So it's not that. So the city council, when they do town halls, each one of them's doing a separate town hall. The mayor did one, I think. I know Danko did one. I don't know about Clufus. I know Miss Pontieri just did hers.
Mm-hmm.
And then Miss Hyder has hers coming up Friday. I think I wrote it down Friday. I may go to hers.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to do them separate. But, once they come back, when they get in chamber, after they all do their town halls, and they get the input from the citizens, then they go, okay, let's talk. Let's have a workshop. Let's talk about what issues and concerns that the people you had your meeting with, what they were most concerned with, and try to iron out those differences and fix what the problems are.
Sure.
And there's you got the constant antagonist out there, so they're going to complain. It doesn't matter what you do. You can be the greatest. You can be the greatest mayor in the world, and they're still going, well, I hate him. I hate the way he wears his hair parted to the right, or so that's it. It's engagement with the community, and that type of forum. Or even if they could have a town hall with all of them there. If you had a big enough facility, say use the auditorium or something over at the Flagler Theater, have them all up on the stage answering questions. Sure. And that way it's all open and transparent, and instead of the backdoor deals and stuff, you can actually say, okay, well, this is what I think, and let's see if we can come to some type of resolution.
Right.
And work together to pass ordinances to meet the needs of the citizens.
Sure.
So.
Now, my last question for you, it relates to basically your experience. So, your history and your experiences in the military and stuff, what of your experiences make you unique and qualified for being the mayor? Like, sell yourself, essentially. What is
I think it's common sense.
Yeah.
I've been a lot of places and done a lot of things, and I pick up on things that other people may not be thinking about, and I try to lean forward in my thinking. But I think I bring a common sense perspective. I've been a leader, and some people are there, well, it doesn't matter that you have all this college and military. It doesn't matter. You don't need that. And what's so special about that? Well, it's commitment. I committed myself to serving our country for 24 years, and it's that commitment, and it's that, in the military, we call it the military decision-making process. And actually, that's what they're going through with this city right now in their strategic action plan. That's the military decision-making process. Whenever you receive a mission, you have to analyze the mission, make facts and assumptions. And it's a whole process you go down as far as making decisions. And that's what they're doing with their strategic action plan. I've been doing that my whole career. Like their vision statement. Well, I base everything I do on intent.
Yeah.
And we call it in the military the commander's intent. And I had commanders sometimes, and some of them were confused. And if I didn't know what they wanted, I'd say, look, I said, sir, what is your intent? At the end of the day, where do you want this organization to be? Where do you want me to be at the end of the day? And then when you can focus in and you can say, okay, this is my intent. Mm-hmm. And if you can drive, use all your influence and all your resources to get to that end. And that's what I've been doing my whole career. It's, my boss over in Okinawa, when I was over there as infrastructure and anti-terrorism, he was pretty much the mayor. Okay, we had a new elementary school that opened up, brand new school, brand new DOD school. And the school caught up, and we work in association with all the essential services, fire rescue, the military police. We work with all those guys on a daily basis. And he said, I'm going to get one of the patrol officers. We're going to go and we're going to work this out. I said, Lee, it was about the way that the parents were going to come through and pick up kids.
Sure.
And I said, Lee, boss, sir, just Lee, because we were friends. Listen to me. Like, it's been a while since you had kids in school. I'm like, those people at that school, that principal and that staff, they know the way they want that run. They know exactly how the flow needs to go.
Yeah.
Because they're the subject matter experts. They've been doing it their whole career.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't go over there and say, this is the way. No, you can't. You got to have a little bit of tact. Listen to the professionals and take the MPs with you. Be the coordinating factor that brings those two together, that are going to facilitate the proper flow of cars in and out of the school where everybody's happy and we have as few hiccups as possible. So, and he's like, okay. So I went with him to make sure. And we had a conversation, and there was a few hiccups along the way, but they iron it out. But it's working with people to come to that resolution. And
sure.
when you've, I've been a professional my whole career. I have the education, I have the leadership background, I have a true insight to how politics works in Flagler County. Not so much that I wanted it, but I got it. So I think I'm well prepared. I have a good relationship with the remaining members that are going to be on the city council.
Sure.
I have a good relationship with most of the people that are running. Some of them I don't know all their background, and we can't endorse people, but I can work. I have worked with people across so many different socioeconomic backgrounds.
Sure.
Because in the military, the military is truly a melting pot.
Sure.
America's a melting pot. But you want to see hard work and people that are dedicated to getting things done, it's in the military.
Yeah.
Because it's mission focused. The officers are responsible for the mission.
Yeah.
And part of that mission is taking care of your people, taking care of your equipment, and getting things done. And that's all the way down to the lowest level, the lowest private, making sure he's taken care of, his wife and kids are taken care of, his bills are paid on time. He's got the proper physical fitness that he has. He's been trained to shoot his weapon. He's been trained to do all the job-specific tasks that he's supposed to do. And I've done that throughout my career. Military people are servant leaders to the core. And some people are self-serving and stuff. But typically, as a leader in the military, you're bringing your soldiers along. You want them to succeed, because when they succeed, you succeed. Yeah. And at the end of the day, when you get your evaluation, well, Sergeant Norris, you had 3 guys that received these certifications. It all looks good on you. And that's what we have to do. We have to, all work together to that common mission to make sure the city is successful. And I think of the people in the race, of the 4 that are really running, I'm the most qualified. And that's, and I'm dedicated to the city and making sure we do the right things for our residents. And I don't focus on them too much. I got my campaign.
Sure.
I'm running my campaign, and it hurts a little when people are talking smack about you, but I'm thick-skinned. It's just a lot of people, especially online, they'll talk that smack doing this here.
Right.
But when they're in your face, like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You talk about someone, you've never met them, you don't know their perspective, you don't know where they're coming from. Right. And it's just easy to be very, I don't know, coarse.
Online.
Yeah, except because there's no ramifications from it.
That's true.
And
it separates us.
Yeah. And so that's where I stand. I think we have a good chance of changing things in the city, and I look forward to it. We have that get together tomorrow at Sunrose.
Okay.
So at least 3 of the candidates will be there.
Oh, that's cool.
And then we'll go on from there. I'm sure there's going to be debates. There's going to be other forums. It's just, I'm running my campaign, and I've been running the longest, and I'm the one that's actually been campaigning, and I tell people sometimes it's almost like I'm the only person running in this county for an office. And I know one person just got in a race, but I filed back last January, and I think I could be wrong, but I think I was the first person that reached the required petitions to be on the ballot, and so I was like the first person in the chute. And it takes word of mouth, and you're fighting the party establishment and the powers that be, but we've done the right thing. I think we run a very good campaign, and we're going to keep doing it. I'm not focusing on other people, and I'm not personally attacking people, and people online. We have people on Nextdoor. They're denigrating people's education, denigrating military service, denigrating what someone does for a living. There's no need for that. If you have a policy, if there's something wrong with my policy stance, that's one thing. That you actually ballsy enough to attack someone for serving in the military for 24 years and say they have no leadership skills and they can't run an organization.
That doesn't make sense.
624 people, and working with 5 other people, managing a budget, and making sure the city's doing the right things.
Sure.
Really? You're going to say that? Oh, no.
And that's when you've managed when lives were on the line.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Most of the things I did, and I can't say, and it's one of the proudest things in my career. Every time I deploy, and I was just the veteran of the month for this month for my church.
Sure.
And they ask you to provide information. And I've got this one evaluation from when I was on a MIT team. And, that was part of the write-up for the church. And just in that deployment, it said, and in my evaluation, it says Mike coordinated and planned and executed over 250 combat patrols and raids, cordon and searches. But that's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's a lot. And that's just one deployment. That's 1 year. That deployment was 1 year.
Wow.
And that was the second Bronze Star I received.
Wow.
For that deployment. So I received a Bronze Star as a lieutenant, and I received one as a captain. And, I got all the ribbons and stuff, but that's, in the military, your career is right here.
Sure.
For everybody to see. Everybody can see what you've done. Not so much in the civilian sector. And, but I think, and they're too rigid to be in charge. You got military leaders throughout the government. Lloyd Austin, whatever you think of him as a defense secretary, he was my brigade commander in the 82nd Airborne Division. So that's the kind of, people go, civilians are in charge of the military for a reason. So, but I've known a lot of people. I've done a lot of different things, and I think I've had a successful career, and I'm trying to do the right thing.
Right.
And you have to, put the bad stuff behind you. Don't focus on the negativity. Just focus on your mission, and that's what we're doing.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I think I got a good team. I got some really good people working on my campaign.
That's important.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else you want to leave with the people as we kind of wrap up?
No, the only thing I can think of is the website is Norris, my last name, for mayor. And my platform is there. And you can follow us on social media. We're on Nextdoor. We're on, I finally got an Instagram account. I'm trying to get that up and running, but most of our stuff is on Facebook. But, and venues like this and sitting down with you, and I sat down with the guys from Flagler Weekly. That was my first interview.
Okay.
The powers that be control the media in this city and in the county.
Sure.
Okay. And if you can't break that barrier to get in and have them actually sit down and interview with you, like Flagler Buzz. I've done an interview with Flagler Buzz, Flagler Weekly podcast, and you. That's alternative media. This is going to be out there for everybody to see. I'm sure you won't have to edit much unless I've said a cuss word or something that you don't want in there. Nothing too too bad.
Sure.
But people have to be able to see and understand people's perspective and stuff like that. These sit down conversations are the best.
Yeah.
You know, because you get a feel of a person. So, and that whole barrier with the powers that be and the paper record, it took Palm Coast Observer almost a month to even publish that I was running.
Really?
And we sent them the entire press packet, resume, business receipts, all that. It took them a month. So either they're not engaged or you're not their favorite candidate. So which one is it? So you got to break that barrier. But I think you guys are doing a great job, and I appreciate you sitting down with me. Yeah. I'm sorry about last week.
No, you're fine.
That was an important meeting I had to do. I had to do it because I really, and I don't know if the other candidates have met with the staff, but I met with Miss Bevan before she was released.
Sure.
I just had that meeting, and I'm sure I'll have other meetings with them. And I try to be at all the city council meetings. I've been doing it since I announced.
Sure.
So, and this will be the second budget process that I sit through with them. Mm-hmm. So, and I see things, and like I said, the priorities. I knew last year when they were doing their priorities, like, that's wrong. Their priorities are wrong, and now it's panned out. And we're about to be in a hurt box because Representative Renner is term limited, and he's the president of the House. You know, he's the president of the House. So we're going to be at the low end of that totem pole when it comes to funding because we're not going to have that seniority in the House of Representatives. So our county and our city are going to have a lot of work, and budget is going to be crunched some more because we're not going to have that representation or that powerful representation. Sure. And I think we misused our chances of gaining those resources that we needed for our infrastructure. That's just my perspective.
Gotcha.
How long do we go?
I have no idea.
You might have to edit it down, man.
I don't know. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And, you know, they can find you on Facebook. You have a new Instagram that's coming out of the wrapper still that you're launching. And obviously, Norris for Mayor.
NorrisForMayor.com.
Absolutely. And huge thanks again to Ash and Elle here in European Village. It really allowed us to use this space. If you guys are in European Village and you guys want to have a drink or a cigar, this is a great spot to do it. It's nice, it's cozy here, and Mackenzie is fantastic. So thanks again, Mackenzie.
Thank you, ma'am.
And we'll be seeing you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.